Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the dimly lit studio, the antique camera's flash erupted, its brilliance capturing more than just a moment. David Beckham's world flipped upside down with that blinding flash, a disorienting sensation as if he had briefly stepped into another dimension. His fingers trembled as he reached for the camera's viewfinder to steady himself. But the image reflected back at him only served to deepen the growing sense of confusion. For he was gazing at a stranger, dressed in a lavender gown that belonged in a bygone era, the silk fabric cascading gracefully to the floor. The silky fabric shimmered under the studio lights. On his feet were a pair of silver stilettos, their tall heels completely foreign to him. "Hallie, darling, you look absolutely stunning!" called out a voice. "Now, give me fierce! Give me fabulous!" Beckham's head snapped up in confusion. A photographer he didn't recognize was gesturing enthusiastically from behind a camera. All around were racks of designer clothes, makeup stations, and studio equipment. What? Beckham stammered. But the voice that came out was higher, softer, decidedly feminine. He caught sight of his reflection in a nearby mirror, and his jaw dropped. Staring back at him was a beautiful woman, with long, flowing blonde hair and delicate features. It was his face, and yet not. "Hallie, focus, darling!" the photographer called again. "We've only got the studio for another hour. Work it!" Beckham, or was it Hallie now, felt completely overwhelmed. But some instinct took over as he turned back to the camera. He struck a graceful pose, one hand on his hip as he gazed intensely at the lens. Yes, absolutely gorgeous!" praised the photographer as he snapped away. Hallie moved through a series of poses with a confidence and poise that felt natural, despite the surreal situation. Part of her mind was reeling, struggling to process what was happening. But another part slipped easily into the role of the glamorous fashion model. After what felt like both an eternity and mere moments, the photographer called for a break. Hallie exhaled shakily, unsure what to do next. A petite woman with a headset rushed over. "Great work as always, Hallie! We've got you in the blue gown next. Amber's waiting to touch up your makeup." Before Hallie could respond, she was whisked away to a vanity station. A makeup artist immediately began dabbing at her face with a powder puff. "You're looking a bit flushed, hun," Amber commented. "Everything okay?" I'm not sure," Hallie admitted. "I feel a little confused." Amber nodded sympathetically. "Big shoots like this can be overwhelming. Just take some deep breaths. You've got this. You're a total pro." As the makeup artist worked, Hallie tried to gather her scattered thoughts. Clearly, she had somehow been transported into an alternate reality where she was a woman, a fashion model named Hallie. But how? And why? The flash from that old camera came to mind. Had that triggered this impossible transformation? "All done," Amber announced, putting away her brushes. "Now, let's get you into that stunning Versace." Hallie was led to a changing area cordoned off by screens. A blue gown even more elaborate than the lavender one hung waiting. She hesitated, unsure how to proceed. "Need help with the zipper?" a stylist asked, popping her head around the screen. "Oh, yes, please," Hallie replied. With the stylist's assistance, she managed to change into the new gown. The process of shimmying out of one dress and into another felt awkward and foreign. But as Hallie emerged in the flowing blue creation, She couldn't help but admire how it draped elegantly over her curves. "All right, everyone, places, please," called out the photographer. "Hallie, we're going to have you over by the columns for this set." Hallie made her way carefully across the studio, still unsteady on the tall stilettos. She positioned herself between two Grecian-style columns as the photographer and assistants adjusted lights and backdrops. As the camera started clicking again, Hallie tried to focus on the task at hand rather than the madness of the situation. She angled her body, lifted her chin, and gazed soulfully into the distance as instructed. "Beautiful, Hallie. Now give me joyful. Think of something that makes you happy," directed the photographer. Hallie's mind went blank for a moment. What did make her happy in this strange new reality? But then she thought of the rush she'd felt striking those first poses, seeing her reflection looking so glamorous and confident. A genuine smile spread across her face. "Perfect! Hold that!" The rest of the shoot passed in a blur of outfit changes, makeup touch-ups, and endless poses. By the time they wrapped, Hallie felt physically and emotionally drained, but there was also an undeniable thrill coursing through her. "That's a wrap, people. Great work, everyone," announced the photographer. He turned to Hallie with a grin.
"Especially you, my dear. The client is going to love these shots."
Hallie managed a smile and nod, still feeling somewhat dazed. As the studio began to clear out, she realized she had no idea what to do next. Where did she live in this reality? How was she supposed to get home? A tall woman with a sleek bob haircut approached, tapping away at a tablet.
"All right, Hallie. You're all clear for the rest of the day. Cars waiting out front to take you to your apartment. Don't forget you have that charity gala tonight. I've already sent your dress to your place. Oh, and your agent called. Sounds like that cosmetics campaign is a go. I'll brief you on the details tomorrow. Questions?"
Hallie blinked, trying to absorb the rapid-fire information. "No, I think I've got it. Thanks." The woman, presumably her assistant, nodded briskly and strode off, still glued to her tablet. Hallie made her way to the dressing area, where she found her lavender gown and silver heels waiting. She changed quickly, marveling at how natural it already felt to step into the designer dress. Following the crowd of models and crew members, she exited the studio. A sleek black town car idled at the curb. The driver stepped out and opened the back door with a slight bow. "Good afternoon, Ms. Barry. Where to?" Hallie hesitated for just a moment before sliding into the plush leather seat. "Home, please." As the car merged into traffic, Hallie gazed out the window at the unfamiliar city streets. Everything looked normal and yet slightly off, like a parallel universe just a few degrees removed from the one she knew. She caught her reflection in the tinted glass and studied it curiously. The face looking back was undeniably beautiful. High cheekbones, full lips, bright eyes framed by long lashes. But she could still see traces of her old self in the bone structure, the set of the jaw. What am I going to do? Hallie wondered. How long will this last? Should I try to find a way back, or... Her train of thought was interrupted as the car pulled up in front of a towering luxury apartment building. The driver opened her door, and she stepped out, craning her neck to take in the impressive structure.
"Have a lovely evening, Miss Barry,"
the driver said, with a tip of his hat before driving off. Hallie approached the doorman, who greeted her warmly.
"Good afternoon, Miss Barry.
Shall I have Maurice bring up your packages?" "Oh, yes, thank you," she replied, trying to sound confident. In the elevator, she studied the floor buttons, realizing she had no idea which one was hers. Taking a chance, she pressed the button for the penthouse. The elevator whisked her upwards. When the doors opened, Hallie found herself in a stunning apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Modern art adorned the walls, and sleek furniture filled the space. It was the kind of place she'd only ever seen in magazines. A garment bag hung prominently near the entrance. Hallie unzipped it to reveal a breathtaking gold sequined gown. A note was pinned to the bag. "For tonight's gala, car will pick you up at 7. Tessa." Hallie glanced at a clock on the wall. She had just over 2 hours to get ready for an event she knew nothing about. Panic started to well up inside her. How was she supposed to pull this off? She didn't know the first thing about being a high-fashion model or navigating this glittering social world. Taking a deep breath, she tried to calm herself.
"One step at a time," she murmured. "You can do this."
She explored the apartment, eventually finding the master bedroom and ensuite bathroom. The massive walk-in closet was a fashionista's dream, filled with designer labels and endless shoes. The bathroom was equally luxurious, with a deep soaking tub and spacious shower. Hallie decided a shower might help clear her head. As the hot water cascaded over her, she tried to make sense of her situation. The rational part of her mind insisted this was impossible. People didn't just suddenly change gender and teleport into different lives. But the evidence was undeniable. Somehow, she had become Halle Berry, supermodel. As she toweled off, Hallie caught sight of herself in the steamy mirror. She studied her new body with a mixture of fascination and disbelief. The curves, the softness. It was all so foreign and yet increasingly familiar. Back in the bedroom, she rummaged through drawers until she found underwear and a robe. Sitting at the vanity, she stared at the array of makeup spread before her. She'd never applied makeup in her life. But as she hesitantly picked up a tube of mascara, muscle memory seemed to kick in. Her hands moved with practiced ease, applying foundation, blush, eyeshadow, and lipstick. When she finished, Hallie barely recognized the glamorous woman staring back at her. Her blonde hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders. Her eyes were sultry and dramatic, her lips a perfect red pout. "Well," she said to her reflection, "I guess we're really doing this." She slipped into the gold gown, marveling at how it hugged her curves in all the right places. A pair of strappy gold heels completed the look. Hallie practiced walking around the bedroom, gradually growing more comfortable in the towering shoes. Right on cue, the apartment's intercom buzzed. "Ms. Berry, your car has arrived." Hallie grabbed a small clutch purse she found on the dresser, hoping it contained anything she might need for the evening. With a final glance in the mirror, she headed for the elevator. In the back seat of another town car, Hallie's stomach churned with nerves. She had no idea what to expect at this gala or who she might encounter. As the car pulled up to a grand hotel, she saw camera flashes already going off on the red carpet. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. "Just smile and nod." The driver opened her door, and suddenly Hallie was blinking in the glare of dozens of cameras. Shouted questions, and the roar of the crowd washed over her. "Hallie! Over here!"
"Miss Berry."
"Who are you wearing?" "Hallie, is it true you're the new face of Dior?" She plastered on her most dazzling smile and began to make her way down the carpet. She paused every few steps to pose, one hand on her hip, head tilted just so. It felt surreal and yet oddly natural at the same time. Near the end of the carpet, a reporter thrust a microphone towards her. "Hallie, can you tell us about the charity you're supporting tonight?" Hallie froze for a moment, her mind racing. She had no idea what this event was even for, but then words began to flow from her mouth, as if some hidden part of her psyche was feeding her the information. Of course, I'm honored to support the work of the Children's Hospital Foundation. The incredible things they're doing to advance pediatric medicine and care for sick kids and their families is truly inspiring. That's why I'm thrilled to announce that I'll be donating half of my earnings from my upcoming fragrance launch to the foundation. The reporter beamed. How wonderfully generous! Thank you for your time, Hallie. As Hallie continued into the hotel, she marveled at how smoothly that had gone. It seemed that on some level, she did have access to Hallie's memories and knowledge. She just had to trust her instincts and let that part of her take over. Inside the ballroom, the gala was in full swing. Celebrities, socialites, and business tycoons mingled over champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Halle accepted a glass of bubbly from a passing waiter and began to make her way through the glittering crowd. Hallie, darling! Trilled a voice. A statuesque redhead air-kissed her cheeks. That dress is to die for. Versace? Valentino, actually. Hallie replied, the designer's name coming to her lips unbidden. Fabulous! Listen, we simply must get lunch next week. I'm putting together a little charity polo match, and I'd love for you to be involved. Hallie nodded and smiled. That sounds lovely. Have your people call my people and we'll set it up. As the woman moved on, Hallie let out a small sigh of relief. She was starting to get the hang of this. The rest of the evening passed in a whirlwind of small talk, air kisses, and photo ops. Hallie found herself discussing upcoming fashion shows in Paris, a movie role she was considering, and her recent trip to the Maldives. It was as if she was tapping into a well of knowledge and experiences that weren't quite her own, and yet, somehow, were. As the night wore on, Hallie began to relax and even enjoy herself. There was an undeniable thrill to being at the center of all this glamour and attention. She'd always been a bit of a wallflower in her old life, but as Hallie, she felt confident, powerful, and admired. It was well past midnight when she finally slipped away from the gala and into a waiting car. Back in her penthouse, she kicked off her heels with a groan of relief. Her feet ached, but there was a pleasant buzz of excitement still running through her. As she carefully removed the designer gown, Hallie caught sight of herself in the full-length mirror. She studied her reflection, taking in every curve and plane of her new body. For the first time since this bizarre transformation, she felt a true sense of connection to this form. This was her body now. She was Hallie. The realization both thrilled and terrified her. What did this mean for her old life, her old self? Should she be trying harder to find a way back? But as she slipped into a silky nightgown and slid between the luxurious sheets of her massive bed, Hallie found she didn't want to think about those questions just yet. Instead, she drifted off to sleep with visions of runways and flashing cameras dancing in her head. The next morning, Hallie awoke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. For a moment, she was disoriented. Then the events of the previous day came rushing back. She was still Halle Berry, supermodel extraordinaire. As if on cue, her phone began to buzz. Hallie fumbled for it on the nightstand, finding a sleek smartphone she didn't recognize. The screen was filled with notifications, emails, texts, social media alerts. At the top was a reminder. 9 a.m., meeting with Tessa, cosmetics campaign. Hallie's eyes widened as she saw the time. 8:15. She leapt out of bed, suddenly energized. She couldn't be late to her first real business meeting in this new life. She hurried through a quick shower, then stood before her closet, overwhelmed by the options. Finally, she selected a crisp white blouse and slim black trousers. A pair of red pumps added a pop of color. In the bathroom, she once again marveled at how easily she was able to apply a full face of makeup. Her hands seemed to know exactly what to do, even if her mind was still catching up. At 8:55, Hallie stepped out of the elevator into the lobby of her building. A familiar face greeted her, the assistant she'd met briefly after yesterday's photo shoot. "Morning, Hallie," Tessa said briskly. "Car's waiting. I've got your coffee. Grande soy latte, extra hot." "Thanks, Tessa," Hallie replied, accepting the to-go cup gratefully. In the car, Tessa began running through the day's schedule. "So, we've got the meeting with L'Oreal at 9, then you're due at the Vogue offices at 11 for that interview. Lunch with your agent at 1, then fittings for Fashion Week all afternoon." Hallie nodded, trying to take it all in. "Sounds good. And, can you remind me about the details of this L'Oreal thing?" Tessa looked up from her tablet with a slight frown. "You feeling okay, Hallie? You seem a bit off." "Just didn't sleep well," Hallie improvised. "Big day ahead, you know?" Tessa's expression softened. "Of course. Well, L'Oreal wants you as the face of their new skincare line. We're negotiating the contract terms today. They're offering 7 figures, but we think we can push for more given your recent Vogue cover and the buzz around your upcoming film." Hallie's head spun. 7 figures? A film? Just how big of a star was she in this world? The meeting itself was a blur of corporate executives, lawyers, and marketing types. Hallie largely let Tessa do the talking, nodding and smiling at appropriate moments. By the end, she'd apparently agreed to a multi-million-dollar deal to be the global ambassador for L'Oreal's latest anti-aging serum. As they left the L'Oreal offices, Hallie felt a mix of exhilaration and disbelief. In the span of 24 hours, she'd gone from a regular guy to a supermodel, making more money than she'd ever dreamed of. The rest of the day passed in a similar whirlwind. At Vogue, she charmed the interviewer with anecdotes about her childhood in Ohio and her rise to supermodel stardom, stories that flowed from her lips as if she'd lived them herself. Lunch with her agent was a power meeting at a trendy rooftop restaurant. They discussed upcoming projects, not just modeling gigs, but potential film roles and business ventures. Hallie was starting to realize that in this world, she was more than just a pretty face. She was a brand, an empire unto herself. The afternoon was a marathon of fittings for New York Fashion Week. Designer after designer presented their latest creations for Hallie to try on. She found herself offering opinions on hemlines and fabric choices with a confidence that surprised her. By the time she collapsed into bed that night, Hallie's head was spinning. But beneath the exhaustion was a growing sense of excitement. This new life was overwhelming, yes, but it was also thrilling in a way she'd never experienced before. As she drifted off to sleep, Hallie found herself looking forward to what tomorrow might bring in this glamorous new world. The next few weeks passed in a blur of photo shoots, meetings, and social events. Hallie threw herself into her new life with gusto, determined to make the most of this extraordinary opportunity. She walked runways in Paris and Milan, posed for magazine covers, and signed lucrative endorsement deals. There were challenges, of course. Hallie had to navigate complex personal relationships she knew nothing about. Family members, friends, even an ex-boyfriend who kept trying to rekindle their romance. She did her best to play it cool and let her instincts guide her. But as time went on, Hallie found herself settling more comfortably into her new identity. The knowledge and memories of Hallie's life seemed to be integrating with her own consciousness. She could recall childhood moments in Ohio, her first big break in the modeling world, the excitement of landing her first movie role. Yet she never fully forgot her old life as Beckham. In quiet moments, she would reflect on the strange twist of fate that had brought her here. She wondered about the people she'd left behind. Did they miss her? Was there another version of herself still living that life? But, increasingly, those thoughts felt distant and unreal. This was her life now. The lights, the glamour, the whirlwind of activity. And Hallie was surprised to find how much she loved it. One evening, about 2 months after her transformation, Hallie found herself at another star-studded charity gala. She was chatting with a group of actors and musicians when she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find herself face to face with an elderly man holding an antique camera, the same one that had flashed that fateful day in the studio.
"Excuse me, Miss Barry,"
the man said, with a gentle smile.
"I wonder if I might take your photo, for old time's sake."
Hallie's heart began to race. Did this man know something about what had happened to her? Was this a chance to go back? But as she opened her mouth to respond, Hallie realized something. She didn't want to go back. This was her life now, a life of excitement, opportunity, and endless possibility. She had become Hallie in more than just body. This was who she was meant to be. With a dazzling smile, Hallie struck a pose. "I'd be honored," she said. "I'm ready for my close-up." The flash went off, momentarily blinding her. But when Hallie's vision cleared, nothing had changed. She was still herself, Halle Berry, supermodel and movie star, a woman comfortable in her own skin and ready to take on the world. As she turned back to her companions, Hallie felt a sense of peace wash over her. Whatever strange magic had brought her here, she was grateful for it. This was her life now, and she intended to live it to the fullest. The party continued around her, a swirl of laughter and music and flashing cameras, and at the center of it all was Hallie, radiant and confident, finally and truly herself.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!